Welcome to the Attract, Sell, Nurture podcast. My name is Case Dean, and on this podcast, we celebrate the power of service businesses and their ability to change our world. So join us for insightful conversations with innovative service business owners and entrepreneurs who are making waves within their industry. We're going to delve into their experiences, their triumphs, their challenges, their inspirations, their motivations, and the difference that they are making in the lives of the people that they care about the most. So whether you're a business owner yourself or passionate about making an impact, this podcast is for you. It's more than just business. This is about using business to transform lives and our world. So tune in and be inspired by their stories and their insights on service business and societal transformation. Let's get into this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Attract, Sell, Nurture podcast. My name is Case Dean, and today I am going to be talking to JJ Clarke. Thank you so much, JJ, for joining me today. How you doing?
I am great, thank you.
So we did have a few problems getting onto this today. Technical bugs and gremlins, we used to call them back in the day, trying to stop
Yeah,
us. But as we said, we cannot be stopped.
we
So
cannot, we will not be stopped.
before we go any further, I'm going to just give a little bit of an overview or insight, or I should say, presentation of JJ. So JJ's expertise is creating revenue driving strategies. She creates client attraction strategies for B2C and B2B businesses. She helps individuals release fears and transform their careers as well as monetize their skills and expertise. And she creates and embeds anti-racist and inclusive strategies, which is super interesting to read. Now, as far as her job title was concerned, another one, I'm not surprised. She wears many hats: coach, consultant, facilitator, founder, and I think she had to stop there because it just been too many to list for one person. JJ is and this, I love reading, I love words, and this I've never ever seen before. JJ is a multi-potentialite. We'll get into that in a moment. They should have a trademark with it, I'm pretty sure. But JJ is a multi-potentialite whose diverse professional pursuits are united by a singular aspiration to help people achieve freedom and success in their businesses and careers so they can thrive at life. As an award-winning certified and ICF accredited coach, business mentor, anti-racism consultant, founder and facilitator, JJ has become a beacon of strategy and transformation. With an impressive 16-year background in legal finance for some of the world's largest law firms, she has a proven track record of catalyzing revenue growth through strategic insight and leadership. Her expertise in business strategy and recognizing untapped potential empowers her clients to navigate their fears to unleash their unique capabilities. There have been many successful careers, businesses, and organizations fueled by JJ support. I do not doubt it. JJ embodies the wisdom of her favorite mantra, derived from Nelson Mandela's quote, "I never lose, I either win or learn." She firmly believes that with the right mindset, support, and strategy, everyone has the capacity to transcend barriers and forge a path to purpose and prosperity. According to JJ, we are all created to be successful and thrive. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. We could stop there, but we're not. We're not gonna. So, thanks again. Really, thanks again for being on this episode of the podcast. This is all about you. This is all about the work you do. But I have to take it back to the beginning. I really have to take it back to the beginning. And we'll go from there. But first of all, I have noted that in 28 days, it's going to be the 4th year anniversary of the incorporation of Ability Business Group. Did you know that?
Wow, I didn't know actually. Wow, okay, thank you for that. Wow,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
let's get that. No, yeah. So it's the 6th of December, 2019 was incorporated. So, birthdays, Christmas, all of these different dates we've got, as far as I'm concerned, you definitely have to have that date written down
Oh, for
somewhere.
sure.
Put
Yeah.
it in your
Oh,
Google alerts or something, right?
oh, for sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a feeling that the business predates, or what you do predates this incorporation date. So there's a lot of people who start doing stuff. They can either start doing it for free, like with their friends or family, it becomes a career afterwards, or they start doing it on the black market, as we term it. And then somebody pulls them up and says to them, no, that's not how we do business. You've got to
Mm.
actually be incorporated as a business. Now, we're not talking about whether or not you weren't paying a tax man. That's not what we're on about at the moment. I'm more interested in, can you pinpoint when everything that you're doing right now, because I can see and I can feel it's gone through different evolutions to where it is now, and it could even evolve more, but it's quite stable and structured right now. But can you pinpoint when it kicked off from? What was it, the starting point?
Oh, so funny actually. The starting point, and there's actually, it feels like there's two starting points. So the thing that actually got me to register my company was I got there was an incident at my job. I was working full time in a global law firm, and I was managing three teams, and I was, revenue driver and all of this stuff. And I was also very heavily involved in anti-racism, in diversity and inclusion, and it wasn't part of my job. But I basically had started the employee network, which was called Achieving Cultural and Ethnic Diversity. And I started the network, and I was the chair of the network, and I grew the network. And it was within the legal industry, there's so few people who look like me, and there are so many issues that for me, having that voice and creating that voice and that platform was huge. And then trying to get more equity in the legal industry was very important to me, and something that I was deeply passionate about from my background that stemmed from a lot of racism. And so I'm in this organization, and I have a conversation with my manager's manager at the time, because my manager had left. And so the manager's manager had said, I'm looking for some help. While we don't have a manager, can you step up and kind of be the interim manager and help us with all of these targets and blah, blah, blah. So I did, and I took on the role, and we smashed it for the 3 or 4 months that there was no manager. We smashed it. My teams and everything got together, and I was doing all of the job. And so I said to my manager's manager at the time, you know, can I apply for the job of the manager? I'm clearly doing it. And actually, I've been doing this for the last 2 years. And when I used to live in Dubai, which is a whole different story, I was already doing that job. And when I came back to the UK, I had to kind of take a step down anyway. So I'm, more qualified than to do the role than what the role that I'm doing now. And I had an interview with him. He said he put me through the interview process, and he said to me, "Oh, we don't think you're ready." And I was thinking, there was no evidence of me not being ready. I was ready enough to run the ship for the few months as an interim manager. Why am I not ready? And this is a conversation that
Temporarily ready.
temporarily, right? Temporarily, and also not paid extra for. And this is a
Whoa.
conversation that happens for a lot of Black people, and especially Black women in the corporate space. And it was that point when I said, you know what? I can't stay here. This ain't for me no more. And
Right.
so I registered my company then. But then it took me some more time before I was triggered to actually resign and leave. And that trigger was again from the organization, when a role came up in the D&I team. And by that point, I had been making waves. I had been very instrumental in a lot of in fact, nearly all of the progress that we'd made as a firm in diversity. When anybody wanted to speak about diversity in the law, I was the one who was sent. I was going to different organizations, universities, speaking to people, being interviewed and everything else, representing the organization in diversity matters. And then when the opportunity came up for me to take a position in the team, even though it would have required a pay cut, I still went for, and I spoke to the head of diversity, who I thought we had a good relationship. And he said to me, and I'll never forget, he said to me, I don't think this is for you. I think you'll just be frustrated. And this was basically a testament to, you're black, and I don't think that stepping into this role as part of this team is going to be helpful, because things aren't going to move like you want them to, because we are not trying to make the changes that you're expecting us to be wanting to make, especially
It's
not at the
cosmetic.
speed. Right?
Right.
Exactly. And so after that conversation, I said, yeah, this is, I knew it, but I came to the realization that it's easier for you to effect change outside of the system than it is inside of the system. And so 2 weeks later than that, after that, I resigned. And because I was senior in my position, I had to do a 3 month notice, which I did. And then after the 3 months, I was in it. I'm working for myself full time. And that's kind of like the story. But before that, I'd wanted to have a business for 10 years. And I
Right.
was, first of all, I was telling myself, who do you think you are to have a business? What do you know about business? You don't know anything about business, and all the fears come, and the imposter syndrome comes.
Do you did
And
you did you did you just want to have a business, or was there a specific kind of business you wanted?
I didn't know, because I
Right.
was so far away from the reality of even having a business. I hadn't really considered the depth of it. I can remember having a conversation with me and three friends, and it was going to be always service based, and
Right.
it was going to be, originally I thought it would probably be around money, around helping law firms make money, because that's what I've been doing for the last 16 years. And I'd spoke a couple of friends, let's go into business together. One person was customer service manager, one person was something else, and then me with revenue. And I thought maybe we could do something together. But I hadn't really conceptualized what it would, what it meant, how I would do it. It was just an idea that was way too big. And it never went anywhere more than two conversations. And then when I came to me thinking about, I'd love to have a business, I'd love to be more free with my time, be my own boss, you know, um, I never really conceptualized what that really looked like until I registered my company, and then I left. And then I realized that it could look like whatever I want it to look like.
Here's a
And
question for you. If we go, I've got loads of questions for obviously, but if we go back to 10 years and you
yeah.
said you had this idea for doing a business, you had a conversation with two other friends, do you see any relationship between that experience or that moment and the fact that when you did do it, it sounds like you did it by yourself?
Mhm, mhm. It's funny because there's not really a connection, as in, what I envisaged 10 years before is nothing at all like
No.
what I'm doing. Nothing. And yeah, and I went in to do it on my own, because still people weren't around who, I guess, had the courage, or, and even the people who I spoke to originally, that's when I lived in Dubai. So now by this time I'm living back in the UK, so
Right.
they're not even around me. And so when I did finally get to start it, I actually went into something, just coaching, and career coaching actually was the first thing I got certified in, and it had nothing to do with revenue, nothing.
Right.
And I guess for me at that point, I was in this place where I hadn't even remembered the skills that I'd got in the 16-year career of driving revenue and creating revenue strategies. I just so quickly wanted to have something of my own. And I realized that my managing style was coaching. And I've been managing and leading teams for years and really good at it. And so I recognized that, I got certified as a coach to be a better manager in my job. But then when I realized that this ain't for me no more, I thought, well, I can be a coach outside of my job. That's what other people do. And so that was the first thing. And then the business element, the revenue element, came only within the last 2 years. But
Okay.
when I put two and two together, and I thought, hold on a second, I've got all these skills in writing revenue strategies that I'm using for myself. I can help other people to do this. And I remember one of the main thoughts as well that made me realize that the law firm industry, the legal industry, wasn't for me, was when I addressed what I was doing. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go into D&I was, I'm here making rich people richer who don't even want me in this space. How about if I go and use this knowledge and apply it to myself? and see what I can do there. And then I guess it was a couple of years ago, and I thought, how about if I use this knowledge and apply it to everybody else and make other people richer the same way I was bringing in, 8 million a month for these global organizations. Let's make some money and for other people. Let me help other people and myself the way I was helping these global law firms. And that's kind of what
So,
happened.
okay, briefly, could you explain what you mean by revenue strategy?
Ways to make money. And monetizing. So basically, I work with people who are purpose driven, people who want to create an impact. I don't just do people who just want to make money. That's not my thing. And so when it comes to revenue, I'm helping people to monetize their expertise, their experiences, their passions, their purpose, their gifts, their skills, that lead to a bigger purpose, creating a big impact in the way that they can somehow change the world.
Nice.
And how can I can give you strategies around how to make money to be able to do that and to be able to support yourself and to be able to grow. And I don't just do revenue strategies, I do multiple strategies. My brain thinks in strategy. I'm a systems thinker. And I found out, earlier on last year that I was actually at ADHD. and
Mm.
and so that's the reason why I think in systems. And it's also why strategy and systems has always been like my superpower. And so being able to think about, well, let's take this here and put it into this container and put a strategy around it, put a system around it, and then that's how that can work. And I trial and I test things, and then I help other people to, I share what I've learned and share what I've created. And so
Absolutely
that's what I
amazing.
do.
So, if I again take you back to when you were doing this diversity bit at work, my question is how how did that come about where you picked to do it? My son, for example, works for a massive advertising company, same company my younger brother worked at, his uncle. When the whole George Floyd situation came about, because we just had this conversation recently with my wife about diversity and how the companies were just panicking. Some were like, we can make money off this. Some were like, if we're not seen to be doing it, then we're not going to be relevant. And then others were just like almost doing it. I said, remember saying to my wife, but unless we just arrived, how is diversity a new thing in the way it's being treated right now? But my son's situation was that they actually went to them, all of the black people, people of African Caribbean descent mainly, and asked them if they would tell them how they felt so they knew what to do, which when I heard it almost made me feel sick. What a
Yeah,
situation to be put in. So
yeah,
in your situation though, it almost sounds like you kind of spearheaded it as
yeah,
opposed to you being picked to do it.
yeah,
Now, that can't be the work situation. That has to be something that's in you from before you got to this place. And
yeah,
any place you were in, you're about that. So,
yeah.
could you tell me more about that, please?
It started when I was 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, my family moved to this middle class neighborhood, all white. We were the only black family. And on day three of me living in this place, I was walking to the park and through this park to the shop, and this white kid runs up to me. He's probably the same age as me, maybe a couple of years older than me, and he's pretending like he's holding a clipboard and a pen. And he comes and says, "Do you mind if I ask some questions?" And I thought, "Oh, someone's talking to me. Great. Maybe I'll make a friend." And he said, "So I've got a question. Do you think all N words should be shot?" And I'm coming from a neighborhood where everybody looked like me to this is my first time really experiencing racism at 10 years old. And I thought, what? And I was so shocked. And I looked around at the park and I saw everybody was white. And that was a realization for me when I realized, oh, things are going to be different here. And then all through growing up, I went to that my senior school when I was 11. When I was there, I was the only black kid there for 3 years until my brother came. Out of maybe 1,100 students, I was the only black person. There was one Pakistani person, and obviously us two became friends because we were the two, black and browns. And then there was racism every single day. We were nicknamed Black and Stanny. It was a crazy time. And then I went to college and I did law, and then so I was the only black person. My lecturer looked at me and said, "You are in the wrong place. This is not,
Whoa.
yeah, this is not for you." And I said, "Oh no, you got this, you got me wrong." And then at university, I was the only black person on my doing my degree, and I've always been the only. And then I go into the work environment, and especially in the legal industry, it was around 10 years before there's anybody who looked like me in the law firms that I worked in. And I've worked in global law firms, like some of the top 10 largest law firms in the world. And so I very often went through my life being the only and having to deal with racism. So fast forward to the last corporate job that I had. It was the 1st of October, and I said to my manager, "What are we doing for Black History Month? What do you normally do here?" I was quite new in the firm. And she said to me, "What's Black History Month?" And I said,
Oh.
"What?" And, she's 30, she was 36 years old and living in Manchester. It's not like she was living in, back of bush and she's 90 years old. Do you know what I'm saying? And so for me, that took me back and made me think, how can I be in a place, me being who I am, how can I be in a place that doesn't even know what Black History Month is, that don't represent me? And I was about to resign, actually. And then I went onto the intranet and I saw there was a network for diversity and for black and brown staff. So I contacted the network, and I got through to the head of diversity, and I sent him an email, and he said, "Oh no, that we don't do that. That network's been closed for years." And I said, "So why is it on the website?" And that for me was a whole new thing, because then I contacted them and I said, "I want to start it back up." And then and that was before the George Floyd murder.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "I want to start it up." And they said, "Oh, this firm, we are not, we don't think we have a problem with race, and we're not focused on that. And so that's a no-go." And so after that, I kept bringing up the race thing, because I looked around and I was like, I'm sick of being the only one. And I worked too hard to not have a say in where I'm working. I bring in too much money to not have a say in what I'm doing here. And so there was a few other black people scattered around the firm, but on my floor, in the whole of the business services team, there was no one else. And then, there maybe 3 or 4 black admin assistants and stuff upstairs, but that was it out of 600 people. And so the black people in the firm made up, not just black and Asian, made up, I think, 12 of 600 people. And
Wow.
I strongly agree that black people, or, people from the global majority, as I like to call us, um, are not responsible for fixing problems that we didn't cause, right? And in the workplace, that is not our responsibility. However, I had this thing, it was in me. Like you said, it was in me. And I said, I want to take on this because nobody else has ever done it. That's why the law firm's in the state that it's in. And I can do it. And so I did. And I was pushing, and I did a lot of, weaving. And then finally, when George Floyd actually happened, that's when they said, "Oh yeah, we need something." Because I kicked off because there was a lot of silence. No one said anything. How can you go to work and there's not a conversation, and you're talking about football, and this black man had been murdered by the police and it was all over social media? How can there be no conversation? And all that was a time when all the black people had been messaging me. I've kind of been this voice. So they were all messaging me. I can't be here. I don't know what to do. No one's talking about it. It's weird. So I went straight to the managing partner of the firm, the top man, as high as it could be, and I sent him an email. And I said, "What are you doing? Because I can't see anything, and your silence is violence to us."
Hmm. Hmm.
And he emailed me back directly rather than his PA, and then he called me, and then he said, "Can we have a conversation?" And then I was, starting to build momentum in this area, and a lot of things got changed. A lot of things started taking shape. People started listening, and I recognized it was a lot of guilt, a lot of, some people were caring because they felt like they should look like they're caring. They
Hmm.
had to, do what appeared to be right. But some people actually had a genuine desire to change and to make things better. And
What
so
kind of changes are what kind of changes are we talking about here, first of all?
first of all, it was to do with hiring practices.
Right.
Hiring practices where they're looking for recruitment.
Right.
They changed the trainee, the legal trainees that come in, and the graduates, the scheme that come in. They changed how they chose them, so they weren't all nepotism and people who went to certain schools or universities. They widened that. Also, there was, things like the network and having conversations openly around race and culture, and also helping people to have a voice on social media, which they never had, sharing stuff. So there's a lot of small changes, a
So
lot of small
yeah,
steps.
my I'm wondering if George Floyd wasn't murdered, do you reckon there would have been the same amount of traction?
No,
No,
no.
because I was watching. Do you know the series Atlanta?
Yes.
Right. So I've just watched an episode of the I think the latest season of it. I think the Goof Who Sat by the Door, which is a play on the story The Spook Who Sat by the Door, about a black guy who ends up becoming a CEO of Disney, and he decides that he's gonna make the blackest film ever because why he's made the CEO at the same time was Rodney King. Now
Yeah.
the Rodney King thing wasn't exactly something that was only happening over there. We were aware of it over here, but there was something different that happened with the George Floyd, which I think for most people, from what I remember seeing at the time, was the speed. Because of social media, everybody was aware of it.
Yeah.
It had never happened like that before, because if you take Rodney King and George Floyd, there's so many in between. God forbid we're talking about what could be happening right now while we're even speaking. This has been going on. But yet, it was just this murder that happened that these companies lost their collective mind. I've never seen so much panic. I mean, I was still working 2 years ago in digital work. There are black people around, but yet I find when I've been in meetings or in different places working with companies external, there are no black people involved.
Yeah.
Right? You get challenged or you get kind of spoken to a certain way because you have to kind of state your claim to what you do know when you're having these conversations with certain people who think they're so high above, but yet they can't do what you do and they need you, like you've just said about the money you brought into the company. But yet something happened at this time, and all of the diversity, it's completely waned. But if it wasn't for people like you who have always been about that, I don't think diversity, at least around you, around what you're doing, would exist in the same way. Do you get
Yeah.
how I'm coming?
100%. 100%. I agree. I think that a lot of companies panicked because not because they want to do better, and it was because the people who looked like me who were in these particular roles had enough.
Yeah.
And we spearheaded a lot, even our conversations, and sometimes even our silence spoke volumes. And clients, so organizations who are working on a global basis, clients were starting to speak up. And then, obviously after George Floyd was murdered, all of the Black Lives Matter movement emboldened people to be able to open their mouths and say something, because you're in a very delicate position when you're working in these corporate jobs, and you're one of a few or one and the only, to open your mouth and risk losing your job or risk being isolated and risk all the other things. It's
I can,
very.
I tell you something else apart from risking being, I feel being ridiculed. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
working, I lived in France for 14 years. I remember I was in France at the time Obama became president. And there was an Algerian guy that I worked with. And the next day, I walked into work. I didn't think anything of anything. Of course, personally, I feel a sense of pride and whatever about it. But in the middle of this office, there was like, as you say, there's always this minority of people. And I remember starting this job actually, going into the job, I saw a brother talking in a group. And it was my first day, and I saw him talking in the group. He was like on the outside, and he was kind of nodding away, whatever the conversation. And I'm like, oh snap. So I'm walking over to him. I'm walking over to him, not the group. I'm walking over to him. And he saw me walking over to him, had a look, and then turned away. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's this part of it where there's this fear. I was like, dude, I'm just going to, come on, man. We're in France. We're not going to create ANC. Calm yourself down. You're not going to lose your job today over this. But then the next day of Obama being made president, this Algerian guy turns to me in the middle of the group, everybody around, and says to me, hey, Case, how do you feel about Obama being made president? And my response to him is, dude, he's been made president of the United States. We're in France and I'm from the UK, so I don't even know what to tell you right now. But at that moment, as far as he was concerned, he could feel the importance of it. I suppose he can articulate it, and it turned into ridicule. So rather than, and I think in a way, if you're thinking about it, it was a way of marginalizing because it was just me. There wasn't a bunch of us who could respond to him.
If there was a bunch of you, he wouldn't have opened his mouth.
Right.
Right? He wouldn't have said anything. But this is the thing: the being the only or one of a few in a situation puts you at a place of vulnerability,
Right.
and it leaves you open to many ridicule, to manipulation, to all the other negative things that can happen and that do happen quite frequently in the corporate environment. And so, and all the stereotypes and the microaggressions and all these things, which I don't actually believe are micro at all, they are just aggressions. And so, yeah, I think it helps a lot of people to feel really brave to be able to put you in a box and ridicule you and isolate you and remind you who you are and remind you who they are. And that's what a lot of this happens, right? But if it was more than a few of you, they don't want to have said anything. We're in the UK, right, where it was not long ago, it was illegal for four or more of us to congregate in the streets,
Yes.
to
Yes.
walk in a group, to
Yeah.
walk in the group. If
Yeah.
you had a large friends group going somewhere, you had to be separated.
Yeah.
Just us, right?
Yeah.
And so, if there's multiple black people in an organization, it creates a threat. We are seen as a threat. And example, when we were talking in my in the firm about creating this network, and I was speaking to one of the other black women about this network and would she be interested. And one of the very important things when you are in an organization and you have an employee network or any sort of diversity initiative, there has to be not necessarily oversight, but involvement and involvement by a senior representative, by a partner, by director. It has to have some sort of buy-in from them, right? And so we were looking and thinking, well, who can we get to, as buy-in for this? We're all white partners. Who could we get? And we wanted someone that was senior enough, because what happens then, if you get somebody senior to have buy-in, then it gives other people permission to actually attend these sessions because they think it's been approved by a partner, right? And so we said, let's speak to so and so. So we had a couple of people we wanted to speak to, and this one woman who I spoke to a partner, and the partner came back to her and said, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't want to know if I'm comfortable to have, giving buy-in to this network, because I don't want to have a bunch of um, Black Lives Matter walking around the office. Threat,
Dude,
right? The thing is,
that's
even if you're
so
right,
rude.
yeah, 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 yeah. Because this
That
is
is
this
so
is the world of
rude.
law firms, right? This is
No,
the
and
world of
you know the thing is, um, there's still lots of life to go, God willing, but I've been around long enough to remember when only the brazen could even speak like that. Only the brazen.
hmm
And it could pop off after that, could speak like that. There used to be kind of filters around this stuff. But now, wow, that to me within a workplace with all of
yeah,
the contractual rules around it
yeah,
is astounding to hear such a thing.
yeah.
And from a
That was
senior.
Yeah, from one of the most senior partners in the office, in the actual firm, one of the most senior. Yeah.
But tell me something, with everything that you've done with anti-racism, here you've said that create and embed in anti-racist and inclusive strategies. This has become part of your business. Is that correct?
So I have a couple of different businesses, and one of them is my consulting business, where I am an anti-racism consultant. So that's a separate side where I go into organizations and I do executive coaching and leadership coaching, and also anti-racism work. So and facilitating sessions and all of the stuff that come with anti-racism. And actually, I used to, when I first started, I did my certification in diversity and inclusion. But then, because of how things were not progressing and actually getting to understand the depth of this work, I actually stopped doing D&I and focused on anti-racism, because what I realized was people are now using D&I for different things. And actually, I'm about anti-racism, anti-blackness in organizations, right?
Right.
And the foundation, you can go in and start doing all of these diversity and inclusion initiatives, but the foundation that it's built on is racism. And so
Yes.
you have to go beyond the diversity measures that's coming up and building on top of the racist foundation. You got to go to the root and gut the racism out from there. And so I realized that walking into organizations and doing, an active bystander, how to be a good ally workshop isn't changing anything. It isn't changing anything. It might be helping people with their minds, but it's not changing their
Feeling a little bit better.
feeling a bit better, right? But
I
it's not
think
changing the structure.
I think those kind of things remind me of it's so weird, but it kind of reminds me of when I first understood how the Catholic Church worked in my brain, which was okay, so I can do stuff as long as I go to confession.
Right, but that's it, though, right? That's it. That's it. That's
So as long as I go to a diversity meeting, I'm not as bad as the other guy who
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. And
Not
even
even
the,
just stop it.
and the thing is, some people will not go into the diversity, sessions for by choice either, because they want the confession. That some people are just made to go, and
Right,
so which I believe it should be compulsory anyway.
right.
However, that doesn't mean that people are going to change their minds if they're forced to go. So you have a mix of people. Some people definitely want to be there. Some people don't want to be there, don't care about it, but they have to go. And none of that means that you're going to have any change. None of that means you're going to have change. Even if you go in the best intention in the world, intention doesn't make impact.
Do you
And so,
think? Do you?
hmm,
In my mind, from my experience, there are two types of people: those that won't change regardless of what you say to them, and those who can change through education, learn a bit about history, and just the way the world actually evolved and the way it works, kind of thing. What is your experience? Because you're talking about change, but I do believe that some people are beyond that because that's just their standpoint. I think it's like changing somebody's religion to a certain extent.
this is like a coaching question, right? Fixed mindset, growth mindset. And so you have people who believe that this is how it is, this is how they are, they're not going to change now, they're too old, they're too long in the tooth, all of those excuses, I believe they are. And actually, it's almost like can change, won't change, don't want to change, right? The thing is, everybody can change,
Right.
but you can only change as much as you believe you can change,
Right.
right? If you don't believe you can, or you don't want to, then you won't. But
Right.
if you actually believe and you desire to, then you will.
Right.
And that's it.
So then, does your services work for those people then?
I don't even
It's for
work with
those
those people.
people. Right.
Listen, I'm very choosy with who I work for. That's in all of
Right.
my businesses. I'm very choosy with who I work for. And I actually make it quite difficult to work with me,
Right.
because I want to work with people who actually want to change. I don't just go into a company and deliver a workshop. I don't even do that. Before I go into a company and deliver a workshop, I got to sit down with your leaders and talk about your strategy. My workshops are strategic. So what they do is I listen to your strategy. I see where you are on your anti-racism journey, and I will create you a workshop, a bespoke workshop that fits in with where you are and can help you move to the next step. I don't just go in and deliver any sort of workshop. I am not doing, pencil pushing work. I'm
Right.
not doing anything unless you're prepared to move the needle and to ask yourself some really challenging questions. Then I'm not even going to walk through your door. And my business, my consultancy business is called Start with Courage,
Okay.
and yeah, Start with Courage, and the website is Courage with JJ, right? And that's because it requires courage to put yourself and allow yourself to be in a vulnerable situation and to be in a place where you're like, I don't know how to do this. I
Right.
don't know how I am here, but I want to change. I want to move forward. I don't know all the answers, but I want to know more. I want to do better. And if you're not at that place yet, then I'm not even walking through your door, because I'm not. My job isn't to get you there. My job is to work with you when you're already there. That's what I do. And
Right.
so when I sit down and I have a meeting with an organization with the leaders, and there has to be decision makers. It can't be a HR manager or a D&I manager. No, if you want to work with me, you got to send in the directors, the people who can actually make a decision and who are actually responsible for budgets. And then I sit there and I have a conversation with you and I talk to you about where you are now. And then I say, okay, I can work with you. We can do this. And if it
How
comes,
did you
if
how did you get your first how did you get your first how did you get your first opportunity to do this? Did you push in? Were you contacted? How did that come about?
so the first opportunity, actually, the first few opportunities came about the same way, and they were referrals.
Okay.
Um, there were referrals from people who knew me and said, my organization needs someone like you. Can you come in and just help us? And
No, but hold
so
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Who contacted you and said we need you? Because this person sounds kind of brave, just in the
yeah,
way you've said it, but
yeah.
determined. So who? You don't have to obviously know names, but who is this person? Where are they in the hierarchy? And do you see any patterns in that, maybe in the beginning of those referrals? Who are these people within the hierarchy that come to you? I find that bit to be a bit fascinating, because
Yeah.
it's a brave thing to reach out to somebody like you.
Yeah. So these people weren't even in the hierarchy. The first people who came to me weren't even in the hierarchy. Let me explain how it went. Look, the first person who came to me was somebody who knew me from LinkedIn, never met in person. And what happened was this person referred me to somebody, and somebody contacted me and said, I heard you do this. Can you help us? And then there was another person, a client of mine, who I'd work with and on coaching matters, and said, this is happening with my organization, and my client was a Black woman. Can you do something? Can you help us? And I'm saying, okay, let me see, let me talk with your organization. I do my due diligence first. I research the organizations first, and then I agree to have a meeting with them if they want to have a meeting with me. And then I lay the ground rules. If you want to meet with me, you've got to tell me this, tell me this, tell me this. If you're not prepared to talk to me about your strategy, then I'm not having a meeting with you. And so the people who were referring me were people who knew me on a personal level, or my clients, and said, I'm going through all of these problems, and my work is a big cause of these problems. Can you maybe do something with my
Mm.
work? And so that's the kind of background from it.
It's quite
Yeah.
interesting. I think that's interesting because if you take into account, and you're the credit coach, so I'm as respectful as possible. I want to be about this. I've been through talk therapy and performance coaching and trauma coaching and whatever, all, different points in my life. But I find there are coaches who will say to you, you need to remove yourself.
Mm,
Whereas
mm,
you're on a whole nother level.
yeah, yeah,
Stay where you are, but we're going to change where you are.
yeah.
That's a whole next level way of thinking about it. Especially a person who's asking you, can you come and help the company? It would be so easy for the person who they're speaking to say, you need to empower yourself to leave and go somewhere else where you're loved.
Listen, one of the things I teach, especially, no, this is also connected to my business mentoring practice, right? Is repositioning. Before you leave any situation, reposition yourself there first. Find a way to get good with where you are. Because wherever you go is where you are, right? If you go and you've got a bag of problems, when you go to the next place, you're going to take this bag of problems with you. So you've got to reposition yourself in the place where you're at. And then when you're feeling good and you're feeling confident and you're feeling strong, then you move, right? And so this is one of this. I have 3 stages, and this is I help people to leave their corporate job and start their full-time business, right? And that works in 3 stages. The first stage is the identification stage. Identify what it is you want. Who are you? Who you want to become? What is the idea you want to move with? And in the identification stage, what can you take from where you are? Identify the skills you need. Identify what trainings out there where you are. What's available for you right now. Identify. Then the next thing is reposition yourself. Reposition yourself in your mind, in your own mind. Reposition yourself in the minds of the people around you. And these are the steps that I did for myself, right? So before I left my job, I repositioned myself and I started being an entrepreneur, right? And which meant I started just delegating. I no longer was doing the work. I had trained up the people in my teams to do all the things that I was doing, and exiting myself out of the business and being a consultant within my job. So I was now no longer the person doing the hands-on work. I was the person telling people what needed to be done. So they
Right.
started seeing me that way in their mind. So when I was ready to leave now, they were like, "Oh yeah, it makes sense that you're going to be a consultant. It makes sense that you're going to do these things, you know." And they even said to me that the COO even said to me, "Can you help? We're looking for executive coaches. We're looking for this. This is the person you would speak to. Reach out to us, connect with us, and we'll put you on our vendor list and all this stuff, right?" So you have to first reposition yourself. I don't buy into. I know that it's easy, like you said, to just leave. But what gets solved then? What happens for you? All you know then is about leaving when things get difficult. So the motto for my business is what starts with courage ends with growth. And that is, I believe, one of the most important things we need to remember, that what requires you to be courageous is going to leave you with a gift of growth. And if you can be courageous in the situation where you are, to stay there and make it right until you get to a better position, then move. And that's something that went through my personal life as well as my professional life. Now, obviously, if you're in a volatile, hostile, violent situation, then that's a different story. But when you're in an employment situation, for example, then there's an opportunity for you to do that there. And when you can do that, when you go through that repositioning stage, when I was in that stage, I repositioned what my job meant to me, and I started to work in my own business, and that took up my energy even more. So even when I was at work, I was no longer overworking myself. I was
Yes.
thinking my lunch break, I was thinking about my business.
Yes.
My mornings, I was doing 3 hours of my business before going to work, giving the best of myself
I'd,
to
I'd come
myself.
home. I'd come home back in the day. I'd come home with, I used to call it my memory pocket. My pocket would be
Right.
full of post-it notes because through
Yes.
the day it would just be like, and I
Exactly.
realized there's a period I was at where I almost needed the rubbish that was happening at work
Yeah.
to
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
build the
Yeah.
rocket ship. It was
Yeah.
actually a
Absolutely.
breeding ground of the next stage of my life, to be fair.
Yeah.
of actually being
Absolutely.
there. And that's another thing I've told people over time. I don't think most people have actually taken up on it. So people come to me over the years and they've said to me, oh, I've had this problem at work. This not working. That's not working. First of all, chill. It might be by design,
Mhm. Yeah,
right?
most
It
of
just might be by that. It might seem to you like, why would you put that way? But I think it might be by design. But what would be a better use of your time is get a notebook, write down the problem, and then write down what you would do to solve it.
yes,
And just keep doing that. First of
yeah,
all, there's the whole journaling and getting off your chest. But what I would
yeah,
say to the people is, they're like, really? I'm like, seriously. Then get that book, print it up, and take it to your next job interview, right? Put that down on the table and say to them, not to denigrate my last job or anything, but I had a few problems that were due to finance and whatever they couldn't fix. But I was so passionate about it, I decided to write about it. Bam.
hmm
And that
hmm
way, I think it's about turning that what is could be a negative black hole you can fall into exactly what I think happens to most people that they don't feel comfortable to step into, is that they're actually, I've had a conversation with my wife about it, dear friends about it. There are people in your position or in your company who do not think like you about the problems. They just take it the way it is. But you seem to be thinking about it and have quickly analyzed it and know what it should be. That puts you a level above the position, or maybe two or three, than you are at the moment. I think you should focus more on that than what the company is or isn't doing.
absolutely, absolutely. It's always, one of the things that I say is, when you're in that situation, in that repositioning phase, one of your jobs is to go into spaces where you know they don't welcome you. They know there's an issue, there's a problem, and listen for the gaps. Listen to what needs solving, and take those onto your next venture. Don't just be in the situation and think, oh, it's not working. Oh, this is the da 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 da. Start being solution focused where you are, but that doesn't mean giving them all the solutions. But listen to what solutions are needed so you can use that, right? And this is about, a lot of the time when we run away from jobs that don't work for us or situations that don't work, what we're doing is we're leaving our power behind, right? And so what we actually need to start doing is, claiming and holding on to our power in those situations. And that's the self-empowerment. And self-empowerment is something I believe is so important. Making sure that you are holding on and recognizing the power that you have in every situation, not just the physical power. I'm talking about power in your mind, the power to become somebody, to feel like something, even when you look like something else, right? The power to drive yourself through situations that are uncomfortable and painful, but you know why you're doing it, right? And that's part of that stage where you need to just, girdle up a little bit and start being more intentional and start doing things on purpose, by purpose. There are situations that are created by design, but you can also create by design.
Right.
So you start creating by design too. You start being the design. We are all creators, right? And so we need to start designing the lives that we want, designing the situations that we want, designing the answers that we want, all of those things. But rather than just throwing our bags and running out the door to find something else, that makes no sense. So yeah.
So, with the anti-racism and inclusive strategies, I want to talk to you about this inclusive part. There seems to be two parts of your life that seem to intertwine from what we were talking about before we started recording. This inclusive. Now, again, you talked about the threat that people feel when you start to create these groups for the black and the brown people within companies, but we know it's more to do with inclusiveness and kind of you've got all of these people down here leveling up, so we're all on the same level. But within that, I feel that with your travel, there's this richness within being around different people, seeing different things. And so I don't know if it's, and I'm asking you, I don't know if it's informed your business and your experiences with your business, or whether or not it's because you've been in different places, you've had these opportunities, or it's all of that. But could you talk to me a little bit about your travel? Because it sounds like you've done a bunch of it, where you got this bug from, and it sounds like a big part of it is Dubai. How did you end up in Dubai?
Yeah, so funny. I ended up in Dubai because I was in a very happy job in Birmingham in the law firm, loved it, but I'd reached the pinnacle of where I could go. So I wanted to go to a global law firm, and so I applied for five different jobs in London. I got all five jobs, and
Oh,
then I had to decide what am I doing. And there were two standout positions. So one of them I turned down the job, but I said, but they then came to me and said, but we need your help, in the finance element. And so I said, okay, I'll tell you what I can do. I can consult for you. At that point, I didn't even know what consulting was. I just heard it. So I was like, I can consult for you. And then, and I took on another full-time job. So I was working in London at that time was the third largest law firm in the world, right? And then I was consulting at a small job. Which was mainly international based, had a small shell, and I was helping them set up some finance systems in my lunch break after work. But the job that I was mainly working for, I hated it there, and this was the middle of the crisis in the UK, right? And so I didn't like the job, and I was like, I don't want to stay in a place where I don't like. So I had to. That's when I started to realize, well, how can I make it better? How can I, what can I do here? And so I did the same work and getting to do what I can do, but I realized that this machine being so big, I can't change anything here. This is the third largest law firm in the world, and I'm just a number to these people. So whilst I'm going to the office, and the people in my office were good, I was good for I could make friends, I could do, but I was somewhere where I can affect more, more change. I can have more of an influence, and enjoy it more rather than just in my office. So I was signed up to all these agencies, and they were like, there's no jobs. This is the middle of the crisis, 2007. There's no jobs on our books. And then I called Hayes, it was at that time, and I said, look, is there anything coming up yet? And they said, there's nothing except for we had this one weird company from Dubai. They're on our books. That's the only thing we have in our books. I was like, okay, send me this job spec. I didn't even know where Dubai was, right? I didn't even know where Dubai was. I just said, send me the job spec. They sent it to me, and I was like, I can do this in my sleep. So I said, send them my CV. The next day, they reached out and said they want to interview me, and they interviewed me. And for 30 days later, I was living in Dubai.
wow.
And yeah, 30 days later, I was living in Dubai. Now, the thing is, I had this travel bug since I was 13. The first place I went to had a paper round, and I saved up my little paper round money to go on a school trip to France. And then I realized that I like this travel thing. And so my uncle, who is still a very big role model in my life, and a mentor of mine, and somebody who I still follow right now, he used to have run youth groups, black youth groups, and he was taking people on trips. And then he did a trip to Russia. He took a group of 12 black
Mm.
kids to Russia. So I was like,
Wow.
I'm in on that. So I went to Russia when they were still at the end of communism, and they were like, people were queuing up for bread and milk. I got to see all of that. And it was also one of the times when race was an issue again, because they'd never seen,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people had never seen black people before. Some people never even had TVs. And the people
Mm-hmm.
who did have TVs, they thought that I must have been a celebrity. All of us were celebrities. So it was a really strange time. And then after that, my uncle did a trip to Atlanta, which was at that point the black business capital. So I got to see black millionaires, and I was like, wow, black people can be millionaires, and they're not sportsmen. And so then we went to all these other opportunities that my uncle kind of created for young black youth at that point.
Amazing.
And that got me in this travel bug. And since then, I've been traveling 2-3 times a year since I was a kid. And Dubai actually was a massive change for me, because it was the first time I got to meet people from Finland, from the Philippines, from countries that, in living in the UK, I'd never had opportunity to meet. In the UK, I was only exposed to black, white, Indian, Pakistani, right? And so that was for me. That was me thinking I was diverse, and then going to Dubai and realizing, oh my God, I don't know anything, changed everything for me. And then
And
since then, I
you were telling me before we started recording that you're about to start or continue to a certain extent a kind of nomad. This is what we call it, a nomad location. What do we call it? Location free. What do we call it? Location independent?
location
No.
dependence, location dependence. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're
location.
about to. Is this something you've been doing or you're about to start doing?
I kind of both. So I
Yeah.
kind of tested this year, right? So this year I was like, I'm gonna go and stay in a country for a few months at a time and kind of just travel because I want to live like that. I want to be able to just fly and work wherever I am, bring my laptop, and I kind of set up my business to allow me to do that, right? So I was like, I've wanted to do it for so long. Let me just put it to the test and see how it works, how it feels. So this year, I decided to go and spend 3 months in, which is the maximum I could spend with the visa, with the Esther, was 3 months in the USA, and I was 3 months in LA, and I have an office there. And so 3 months in LA, and then I came back and I go to Ghana, West Africa every year because I do missions work there. I'm the head of teacher learning and development for a school that I was part of a team who built it 22 years ago. So I
Wow.
go and I teach in the school and I teach the teachers and I help them and all of that stuff. So I went to Ghana in September, spent a few weeks there, and then so I've been out of the country for like 4 months, just over 4 months, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready for this. So I come back to the UK and give up my apartment and said this is it. And I'm going to the US again for 3 months in January, and I've already lined up some events there. When I was there the last time, I ran some seminars. I had clients there, and so I just do more of the same thing I do here. I'm doing now over there. When I went to Ghana, I delivered, business workshops, coaching workshops, training, all of this stuff, seminars, and I've also got some seminar requests for September next year in Ghana. And so that's what I'm doing. I've also got a dream which I plan to do next year, sorry, is do a seminar in Bali in Southeast Asia. I love Southeast Asia. When I was in Dubai, I covered Middle East and Asia, so I traveled extensively to different parts of Asia, Southeast Asia, all of that, and all over the Middle East. And yeah, this is a passion of mine to have time freedom, location freedom, health freedom, financial freedom. And these are things that I believe are within my control to be able to take care of to a certain extent, especially with health. Some things happen, you can't control them. But if I'm to control what I do with my body, what I feed myself, and all those things, then I have some control over that element. And so if I can, for me, the ultimate test is freedom. The ultimate desire I have is freedom. And you can only really be free when you are responsible for your money, for your health, and for where you want to be. And so, yeah, the location freedom, the location dependence is something that I decided this year that I'm going to do it. And so right now I'm in the middle of boxes, packing up my space. And I'm planning to go to Bali in December for a holiday, but also to scope out some venues and make some connections because I don't know anybody there. I've traveled
No.
there before, but I don't know anybody there. But I do plan on having a seminar there, so I need to, do some networking, scope out some venues, and then come 2024, I want to have a seminar there.
That's
And then
amazing.
January back on the road for a few months, and then from April I've got some events lined up at universities and other places in LA, and in January to March, and then after that I'm going to be moving on to another location. So yeah, that's the
Wow. Okay, look, you've got so many different, people I speak to, they have a business, they may have a second business, but you've got so many arms to what you do. But I want you to kind of, for the moment, focus on whatever you consider to be your main business and explain to me who are ideal clients for you. I want to change it. And I'm thinking about it's the same thing, but I just want to change the wording. Who do you enjoy working with the most?
oh okay.
Because you
I
work with so many
Yeah,
types of people, but who do you enjoy working with the most?
yeah. So I really enjoy working with people. I'll probably say women, and it's women over 40,
Right.
and it's usually between the age of 40 to 60 or 65, who are very professional, expert. They've been in the role or in the position for a number of years, 10 years, 20 years, and they are in the place where they are ready to make a change. They're ready to create a legacy, right? And this is something I love doing. I've been doing it very recently. A lot of people who are coming to me who are just about to, in the next 5 years, they're going to retire, and they're like, I don't want to retire doing this. I want to
Right.
have, I want to create a legacy. I want to do something. They're ready. I love working with people who are ready. I don't want to, be in a place where I've done this before, working with people and helping them to get ready.
Yeah, I
I
know. Yeah.
realize now that I want to work with people who are already ready. And then what I'm doing is I'm helping them to lay the foundation. I'm giving them the strategies to shift. I love, a lot of the people who I'm working with are coaches and consultants and therapists. And they also say, I want to expand my business. I don't want to just do one to one anymore. And I'm saying, how about doing some corporate work? And they're like, yeah, how do I do that? And I've got an amazing corporate program, and I can come in and give you some strategies, launch with workshops, launch with this, launch with that, work with charities, all this stuff. And so I love working with people who they're probably afraid, because I think we all are afraid, but they are, despite the fear, they're able to make change anyway. They're just able to go through it. I don't know if you see that red book behind me, which is a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan
Right.
Jeffers. And so when I first started my business, I also became a certified Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway coach and trainer. And
Okay.
my very first program was my signature program, the Feel the Fear transformation program. It's a coaching program. And I've had some clients have some amazing success going through this. And these are the people who come to me ready for something different. Despite the nervousness, the fear, they're ready to take action. And they're the people I love to work with, people who are ready to take action and people who
Beautiful.
are able to trust themselves to do it. Yeah,
Do you consider yourself a business owner or entrepreneur?
none. So I went through the different phases where I was business owner. I thought about business owner, and I went through entrepreneur, and I realized I identify more as a founder. I identify as a founder because what I create, the innovation that I put in, the creations that I have are very unique to me, and are also attached to my values, my personal values. And so I consider myself a founder. Um, but I also have an entrepreneurial mindset with the innovation. But more than, you can be a business owner, but not be a founder,
For
right?
sure.
And also you can be an entrepreneur, and you want your main motivation is about building and moving on, selling the business, moving on. I'm none of those people.
No,
And so, whilst I might, decide to sell a business one day, that's not where I am, and that's
it's
not
not
where
the
I see
motivation. It's not the
myself.
key motivation, right?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I'm a founder. I'm somebody who builds out of, um, this a purpose driven mindset. It's connected to my purpose, and so I don't see myself as a business owner. I am a business owner. I own businesses, but I'm a founder.
If you were a fly on the wall overhearing a client, one of your favorite clients talking about you, what is the one thing you would love to hear them say about you?
I would love them to say that I help them change their life. I would help them to say that they are able to have more opportunities now because they've worked with me than they thought possible before.
Right.
That's what I want. I want them to be
Absolutely
able
beautiful.
to, everywhere I work internationally, I want to leave something with someone. So people all over the world say, yeah, I know JJ. I had a conversation that transformed my life. Yeah, I know JJ. She gave me this one tip and it changed my business. Yeah, I know JJ. She helped me with my relationship, and I know JJ. She helped me with my faith, and now this. That's what I want. Legacy.
Are you able to explain where your one's a dedication, but underneath that dedication is obsession to helping people transform. What
Yeah.
where is this coming from?
from from my own pain and my own trauma that I've been through. and I went through it alone. I was in a situation where I was in a different country in Dubai and in a relationship, and I was going through physical abuse.
Mm.
And it was some of the most, I don't know, I haven't even got words, painful. Yet from there stands me now. And what I realized, I grew a lot from that because I was at the lowest place in my life where I almost took my life. And I got to this point where my faith wouldn't allow me to do it. And instead, I had to ask myself the question, first of all, before I asked myself the question, I had this voice say to me, how can you expect to be chosen when you've never even chosen yourself?
Right.
And that made me think, oh my God, I've never chosen myself. And
Sure.
so from then on was, how can I choose myself every day? What can I do today to choose myself? That's now part of my morning routine where I ask myself and I decide first thing in the morning something I'm going to do today to show that I choose myself. And so I helped myself to get it in my mind out of this victim and painful situation that I was in. And I did it in my mind before I was able to do it physically, before it
Mm-hmm.
manifested
Mm-hmm.
physically. And then I got to a place where I did, manage to leave the relationship, and then I'd been working on myself for a while. I had to play the long game for a bit, but I worked on myself for a while, and I had this desire to. I don't want people to feel trapped in something. I don't want people to feel like they can't choose themselves. I don't want, because when you don't choose yourself, you stay in a situation what causes you hurt because you think that person has chosen you. So when you realize you can choose yourself, you can actually start to move out of those situations because they're not, they're harming you. And so, if you can choose yourself and if you can be courageous enough to do that and take steps and move forward, that's why I say I like people who are ready to take action, then and move forward, then you can transform your life. And I want to be helping you by everything that I've gone through. And I believe that from our mess comes our message, from our test comes our testimony. And so, from all the things that I've been through in my life, I want to help everybody else in any way that I can, not to have to go through it. Because otherwise, what's the point? What did I go through it for? And it was in that
Mm.
moment when that quote from Nelson Mandela came to me, and that was when I realized I did learn something from this horrible situation. There was a lesson in that for me. I've got to take that lesson and tell everybody else. I've got to take all the things that I've gone through and help. And in that meant that the awful situation that I was in, the pain that I had, was now a gift, something that I can gift somebody, the gift of my experience. And so that's what drives me to help people to, and I believe very strongly and passionately that we're all connected some way somehow, as human beings there's a connection, right? And I want to live a life of contribution. I want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I'm contributing to the world, contributing to humanity, contributing to my community, contributing to every part of life that I can. And so that's what drives me, and what everything that I create is from a genuine desire to make somebody's life better, to help them get from a place of where I was, which was surviving, to a place of thriving, because we are created to be successful and to thrive. But because of the way we're socialized, the upbringings and the trauma and those things in our minds, we're trapped. And so I want to help people to realize that you're not your trauma, you're not the situation, and you can affect change in your life. And these are the tools. This is what helped me. Let me help you. And when you help you, the spirit man, the person, that's when your business can thrive. That's when your career can thrive, your relationships, because you can't expect to build a successful business or to have a successful family or relationship when you've got a broken spirit. So you got to fix your spirit, build on yourself, and then that can then move on to your business, your career, your all the other things. So that's the foundation of where I'm coming from.
So do you agree with the you are to people what you wish you would have had for yourself at the time?
Yeah, yeah. I very much actually, because in that moment I didn't have anybody else. I didn't, I was isolated, and I at that point I needed me now. I needed who I am
Yeah,
now
yeah,
in my life at that point.
yeah.
And so now, if I can do that and be that to somebody else who was where I was back then, that's a done deal for sure, for sure.
And I touch on it as much or at all, but in preparing to speak to you today, as I exchanged by email, and I'd seen your posts, and I saw your post. It said there's been an electricity cut, and you're worried about the oxygen for your mum, and I think a couple of days later, I was it's not bugging you, but I was emailing you asking for some stuff for the preparation of this. And again, I'm in close proximity to somebody who has said everything you've said and is helping so many people in so many different ways whilst going through something pretty, which would, I suppose, put a lot of people on the ground or get them to a point of only thinking about themselves. First of all, just thank you for the work that you do, despite everything that has happened and everything that's happened to you now or going on now. What is it? What is it that allows you to do that? With as opposed to I'm closing up for now. I have to focus on this because there's a part to you. People call it juggling and multitasking. I watch some of these fitness videos and I watch with my family the SAS Who Dares Wins celebrity stuff and all this kind of business of watching what the human body can do. And I started to go into this research phase outside of watching it because people watch stuff for entertainment. I'm on this another next level, but
Yeah.
and I started to research the mind
Mm,
and most importantly how the mind deals with pain.
mm,
And I remember when I first started to do, or I didn't, so it makes it sound like I've been doing it. But I went to try running
mm,
and it never worked. I got these shin splint pain and I remember dragging my right foot back home. I literally it was like flopping. I dragged it back home and I spoke to my cousin who went through something and used sport as a way to get him back, his spirit, like you're saying. And I was researching what he was telling me and realized that marathon runners still have pain, but they know how to deal with that pain. So when I now think of somebody like you who's going through some stuff which would, I think, put a lot of people in a kind of closed in space, you still manage to, you're here now. How? What is it? How do you do that?
You know, um, I do a lot of work with around fear, and it's almost like the pain thing where it's about how you hold fear in your body, how you hold pain in your body, and the connection it has with your mind. And so if you hold fear, and this is from this the field of fear stuff, you can hold fear from a position of pain, which makes you think that pain or fear is a stop sign. It will send you signals and you'll say, no, 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 I've got to stop, shut down, shut down. But when you can hold that fear or that pain from a position of power, that it's not got something over you, that you are the one leveraging that, then that allows you to move forward, right? And so I can hold fear from a position of power. I can hold the all the things that's going on around me from a position of power. And what I mean by that is, I make sure, first of all, like, remember, I choose myself every day, right? Before I, open my inbox, and which is basically, efficient storage for everybody else's priorities, is your inbox, right? Before I open my inbox, I take care of my personal priorities. And so I'm constantly feeding myself. I'm doing my devotion in the morning, I'm doing my reading, I'm making sure I'm feeding myself and I'm girding myself and preparing for myself to be intentional, to intentionally help somebody, to intentionally transform someone's life today, right? And so whatever happens to in that situation, in my life situation, I also know that I'm purposed for something, right? And so I have to make sure that I take care of myself, I create some space for myself, and that allows me to have the power that I need to go out there and to fulfill my purpose for that day, for my purpose for this podcast, my purpose for somebody else's life. And that's what powers me to be able to do it. So I'm not looking at situations going around from a position of pain that, oh my God, everything's so hard and what can I do and da 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 da. I'm going at it thinking, okay, I'm going to take something from here. I'm going to learn from this. Again, back to that quote from Nelson Mandela, right? If you can find a gift in every moment, which the quote is, I never lose, I either win or learn. If you can find a way to win or learn in every situation, then you've won. So it's a no lose situation, right? And so whatever's going on around me, I can take something from it. It will power me. It might be awfully uncomfortable, but I know that somewhere down the line, that discomfort is going to help me save someone's life. It's going to help me save someone's business. So I'll go through it from a position of power and not pain, and that's what allows me to be here and to do all the things that I do.
So tell me, how did you decide on the business name Ability Business Group?
Because I love this bit, so simple, because it was a way for me to use all of my own abilities, and I wanted to be able to use my different abilities and the business in the beginning. And I've changed the business and it brought it right back to what it was supposed to be originally.
Right,
So
right.
in the beginning, it was about creating a platform for people to come in and use their ability to help other people to better use their ability. So, for example, if you're a coach and your ability is to be able to coach other people and hold space for people, or if you're a therapist and you're able to help people heal, then my ability is to give you the strategy to do the business of coaching. I can help you to create the business of coaching so you don't have to worry about, how do I set up a business? How do I do this? So I can use my ability so you can use your ability.
Oh,
And so
wicked.
that's what my company is about.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And the thing is, I asked this question because I see so many people within the work that I do at certain points kind of tell me about, I've not got a logo, I need to get a logo designed and the name of the company and the name of the business. And it feels like I'm in a period of time where there's not a lot of depth or thought behind what the business is actually called. It's like it has to, at the time when I was doing a lot of training and qualification, it was like, yeah, people saying, like, like the name like Yahoo, when you hear it, Yahoo, but it's got no depth to it. It means nothing. And
Yeah,
I think when I hear you explain it and then you read it, it's like, okay, it makes sense.
yeah,
As opposed to it just being a name for a
yeah,
name's sake.
yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. Tell me it
Thank
again because I know it's recorded, but I really want to hear it again. I give you the ability. Tell me.
I give you the ability. I use my ability so that you can use your ability. So I use my
Hey.
ability to allow you to use yours.
So okay. Can you tell me you've probably got loads, but could you tell me a success story about your business or your career, a standout moment for you?
Um, okay. Can this be a client success?
Of course.
Yeah. And so I guess it's a success of my first signature program, which is the Feel the Fear program. And this is a success that I love talking about. This client came to me and she was an accountant, but she took some time off to write a book. And she was, I guess, so covered in fear, different fears that limited her life. And then she came to me like with writer's block and said, I can't move forward. I'm so unhappy and I don't know what's going on. But basically, I was running a free workshop. She came and then she said, I wonder if this woman who she doesn't know can help me deal with this fear. And so she joined my program, And I identified, we go through this fear identification phase, and I identified the fears that have been driving her decision making, which basically meant they've been driving her life. So
Right.
these are around fear of saying no, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, and then I helped her to see how it drove her decisions, and that's why she was where she is now. Then going through the stages of the program, we identified that, well, actually, she didn't even want to do accounting. She'd been doing it all these years. She actually wanted to be a singer songwriter.
Oh,
She
wow.
had, yeah, she had a guitar in the loft, but her kids, who were grown up adults with their own kids, had never even heard her play, didn't even know she could play, didn't know she had a guitar, never heard her sing. She was so afraid she'd never sang in front of any human being.
Mm.
And before we finished the program, she just went downstairs in the lobby of her apartment with her guitar and started playing and singing, and drew a crowd of people, and they just loved it. And then she started going down every week, and I gave her some small tests to help her with the fears that she was feeling. And before we finished the program, she'd set up her first gig at a local coffee shop to perform. And after that, she contacted me, and she was still very much in touch. She emails me, lets me know her progress, and she now lives on a boat. She gave up her apartment. She lives on a boat, and she's a now singer and songwriter. She's got a YouTube channel. Her music is played on the radio all the time, and that's what she does for a living now.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
That is so incredible.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you. That's amazing. What a gift to the world.
yeah, yeah,
Imagine, just imagine, and when you think about the sad version where that never happens,
yeah. Right?
ever,
Yeah, yeah,
that's so sad.
yeah. Imagine she could have gone through a whole life doing the life that she didn't even enjoy, she didn't want, it wasn't even really created for her. And a lot of us do that. A lot of us make do with the thought that I'm okay, I'm comfortable. A lot of people say to me, I mean, I'm comfortable, and I say, are you really comfortable, or do you just have a high tolerance for discomfort? And they realize,
But
well, like,
it's also when you talk, especially from a creative point of view and music, it's also all of the people she's touching with
yeah,
her music.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That ripple effect throughout the
yeah,
world, as
yeah,
opposed to her in an Excel sheet or whatever else she was doing when she was doing her accounting. It
yeah.
was only
And
going
this
so far and not even being appreciated by anybody, probably.
exactly. But this is also part of legacy, right? Legacy is a big thing for me. I want to leave a legacy, people whose lives I'm able to touch. And even if I can't directly touch your life, I help something to make something happen that is touching someone else's life. I love that, right? I love that for me. I love that for my clients. To be able to focus on legacy, purpose, passions, values, all of those things, it's important to me. And this program, this Feel the Fear program, has been so transformative. There are so many more stories like that. It blows my mind, and it humbles me to think, wow, I helped make something like that happen. That's massive. It's
It is.
massive.
It definitely is. Now you've already told me, and I'm aware of quite a few challenges. But if you will, what is a challenge you faced while building your business, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Okay, a couple of things might be connected, I think. So first of all, when I first was building my business, I had no idea what I was doing. I was guesstimating, right? And I kind of fumbled my way through. And so some of the challenges that I came over, or overcame, was about, one, but I invested in programs which, couple of £1,000s, which were absolutely useless for me. They didn't do anything. They weren't actually sound. But because I didn't know enough, and I didn't know anybody else around me, I saw something and I invested £2,500. It took me 13 months to pay it off. Right, that's when I first started, and I thought, even up to the point when I'd you know uh, done the program, which was like a 12-week program, I thought this is going to be great. And I realized this is actually not sound. This is not
No.
real. And but it's fine. I went on, so one of the things I realized was to do more due diligence around the work before you make these investments, to make sure that they actually are going to help you with what your goal is, right? And put some more thought behind it, and make sure you're asking people and seeing how you can use it before you go ahead and invest. So that's one thing. And also making sure that the mentors or the coaches are sound. Not
Yeah.
that they all have to be qualified with something
Yeah.
either. You don't have to be, but you have to be able to show that you can, or demonstrate some sort of success, right? Another thing I'd learned was when I first started, I was told only do one thing. And I get it. For a lot of people, that might be the thing, that might be the way it helps with focus. I get it. But if you're neurodivergent, for example, like me, it's very difficult to only focus on one thing. My business is called ability because I have multiple ability. I call myself a multi-potentialite because I have multiple
There it
potential,
is.
right?
But
And
let's stop,
so,
let's stop, let's stop. How did that come about? How did that word come about? I would have forgotten about it. How did that word come about?
right, so
Is it in a
um,
dictionary, first of all? I
I
don't
don't
think
know, but
so.
every time I write it, it comes up with a spelling error.
I don't think it is, but it should be. Go
It
ahead.
should be,
Where
right?
did that come
So
from?
basically, I was at a conference somewhere and they said something about, having potential and unleashing your potential. And I was like, yeah, but what if you got multiple potential? Like, what if you can?
Yeah,
And I was like, what did I call myself first of all? I was thinking, I was playing with words like multi-purpose, and I was like, no, 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 because that's used, and that sounds like cleaner. I was like, multi-potential. So, if what do you call somebody who's got multi-potential? You want multi-potentialite, right? And that kind of but then it's really funny because I heard somebody else use the word, so I was like, okay, so it's a thing. I don't feel like it's a real like it's a thing, but
yeah.
somebody I heard somebody using it. So
It
but
makes
yeah,
absolute
that's
sense. It's the
right,
first time I've seen it, but now I know it. It makes absolute sense.
right?
Absolutely, it explains a lot. But you're right when it comes down to, and I am one of the people that would tell somebody to focus on one thing, but that's not because they don't do the other things. It's more to do with learning a framework that's
Yes,
repeatable.
yes,
So
exactly.
once you
Now,
learn how to use the framework to do this thing, you're gonna find everything else super simple to do. But when they come, I got this idea, I got this idea, I got this idea. Look, man, we can't build all of these buildings at the same time. Let's just
at
show
the
you how
same
to put the bricks
time,
together for one building, and
yes.
then you'll know how to do it for the rest of it. And you won't even need me.
Yes, yes. And this is the thing, right? When I was first starting out, I was told focus on one business. And I was like, there's too many. I want to have more. There's more. I can't just do one thing. Now, what I had to do was I created something called a parking lot. Right, so I have a parking lot, which is a Google document. Right, it's a Google Doc called the parking lot, and on that parking lot, I park all of my Ferrari type ideas. I park my Porsche ideas. I park my Lamborghini ideas in the parking lot. I write them all down there with dates and all the other things. And then once I've proceeded with one thing to move something forward and I get it to a place where it makes sense now, I look at my list and I say, can I drive out the Ferrari today? Can I take something else off the parking lot?
Beautiful.
And I say, can I take it out? Not red, not quite yet, but it's still there. Because what happens with, especially when you're neurodiverse, is you feel like you have to do it now and do everything now because you're going to lose it if you don't. So what you need to do is create a system to keep it so it's safe and you're not going to lose it. And once you know psychologically that it's safe, you allow yourself to be able to focus on something else, right? And
Absolutely. I don't have all of these terms around it, but I've taught a lot of people or recommended to people keep a notebook. And I said to them, the thing is, the way the brain is, and I don't
yeah,
put terms in it, but I'm suspecting. But anyway,
yeah,
the way that my brain works is it's got so many ideas. And I remember getting to a point, hence the memory pocket. That's why I
yes,
had all those post-it notes.
yes,
And I
yes,
could be calm in the day and I'll come home and I'll be looking through them and then I'll get geeky and maybe take a scan of it so it's electronically put and it's always somewhere. And I just tell people, if you got this book where you write things down, you could even keep it by your bed because I'm being a shower. I remember trying to come up with an idea of something that I can have in the shower that allows me to write in the shower. or record in the shower and doesn't get wet, because
Yeah.
the way the brain is and the stress comes from, and not to preach to the choir, but just what I went through was the stress comes from I'm going to lose the idea.
Mm.
And so the way I was telling other people is if you put it in a notebook, then your brain only needs to remember where the notebook is.
Exactly. But I'm going to tell you something else. That's also when you have because I'm also certified in dyslexia awareness, and I help people with dyslexia and cope. I go into workplaces and help them with coping strategies, all that stuff, right? And so when I talk about systems thinking and thinking in systems, and thinking of the way that the neurodivergent brain can function and operate and survive and thrive, then we have to create these systems. And so the parking lot was a system that for me worked, but notebooks itself didn't work, because let me tell you something that happens when you are neurodivergent. You have 20 million different notebooks. You're writing every single one of them. You can't maintain one string of conversation in the one notebook. And then you can't remember the one notebook that you need. Right. Okay. So so the parking lot works because I've only got one parking lot, but I've got notebooks everywhere right now. But my parking lot works, and then what I do is because I do multiple different businesses, I work in seasons. So this is a
Mm.
season for me where I'm really focusing on ability, I'm focused on some rebranding, I'm focusing on this area, and I'm doing less of these things. However, in the next, quarter three, my season changes and I'm going to focus more on this. And so I help people with that side. And there's some power in doing like the 30-day sprint, the 90-day sprint, where you're planning out your year, right? And I do that, but I can't plan the whole year because my brain doesn't work that way. But I can plan the 90 days, and then I need to also leave space for what happens if something else comes up, and I might be able to have to switch and do that instead. But the main focus will remain the same. So I work in seasons, and so there's a season I'm going through now, which means this and this is going to get done. Those things over there, they're ticking by themselves now. But these things, and what I do when I work with neurodivergent business owners, and they also struggle with doing one thing at a time. And so what I do is I say to them, something that helped me is, let's think of one business, and you can be creating different offers in one business. That's a way for you to be creative with multiple different things. And then they're like, oh, okay. So then they can create this here and then create that here and then this lead magnet and then this here. And it's all within that business rather than
And it doesn't
creating
feel
different.
like anything's being sacrificed. It's all part of the same
Exactly.
story.
Exactly.
So, is there a part of your journey where I'm wondering, did you have a rough time before discovering, which you've just explained so simply that other people are going to be like, wow, that makes so much sense? Was there a period of life before all of this that was almost the opposite, and it was kind of messy and a bit all over the place?
Um, that's
Or have you always been organized?
no, no. So all of this, even the ADHD, I didn't know none of those things until I started running my own business. Before that, I've always operated in structures. I've worked in, legal
Right,
industry,
right,
very structured, very
right.
organized. I knew where I was going to be every moment of the day. And but then I also, when I got to the management level and I was hiring people in my team, I always hire a deputy. And I am very specific when I'm doing these interviews and I'm listening for and I'm not one of those managers who gets intimidated by people who are more experienced or better than you in certain areas. I'm looking for you to be better than me at organizing. I'm looking for you to be better than me at memory retention. I'm looking for you to be able to operate in these skills and fill the gaps so that I can live over here with the ideation and the blue sky thinking, and you can live over there with that organization, because organizing is not my strong point, right? Which
Right,
is why in my own business I have to be very deliberate on having systems.
right.
So systems and playbooks. And so before that, I literally hire someone and I say, listen, my brain is not for retaining information. My brain is for having ideas. Your brain is for making sense of those ideas. So I'm gonna tell you stuff you need to go and figure out. So I will be the how, the why. I'm the why thinker. You are the how thinker. You're the put it into together. You're the, help me execute. But I'm going to have the idea. You're going to keep the idea. You're going to remind me of the idea. You're going to help me keep it in motion, and then you're going to also help me put it into place and
Nice.
execute it. But that's, yeah, no, you always have to have people around you that complement your gifts and your strong points.
Right.
Yeah. Which is also why ability is important, because again, you have to have people who around you who can complement your abilities. So if you're not strong in that area, find somebody else who is. When I first started out, when you talk about challenge, when I first started out, and I didn't have, a runway, I didn't have money, and so I was trying to do everything on my own. And I thought I had to be an expert at this, I'm expert at that. I'm not an expert at certain things. So that then allows me to then let me hire somebody else who's an expert at something. So I don't have to try and learn how to be an expert. But I had to wait till I got to that place where I could afford financially to do so.
Yes.
And so I tried to do all these other things and it wasn't working. It's really hard. And so, but as soon as you get to be able to pay 1 month of a VA, of an assistant, 1 month, let's say, even if it's just like 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week, if you can put aside £300 or something like that,
Life
you know,
changing, for sure.
life changing. And also, it can also increase your finances as well.
It does increase your finances, and it
Mm,
also just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. And I found that when
absolutely.
teaching people what I call smart delegation, they get to a point where they're like, but what am I going to do with my time? Like, that's the real problem we need to look at now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So just a few questions. I think I've got three more questions. How
Okay.
do you measure business growth and your personal growth as a founder beyond revenue? So outside of revenue.
It's funny actually, because I don't actually see revenue as an indication of business growth, because your business can stay exactly in the same position if you just put your prices up. You can grow finances, right? And that doesn't mean that your business is growing. And so, so I look at business growth by impact. I measure by impact, and also, and the same with my personal growth, it's impact. How many lives am I touching? Am I touching more lives this year than I am last year? Am I touching lives in different countries this year than last year? Am I speaking on bigger stages? And also, I grow my growth. I measure my growth by, am I comfortable? As in, do I? When's the last time I felt afraid? When's the last time I felt nervous? Like, if you're running your business for 10 years and you're not challenging yourself and you don't feel scared every few months, then you're stuck,
Right.
right? It also means your income is probably stuck and
Right.
you're probably just living in the place of comfort, in that comfort zone. For me, I've got to always be challenging myself. And the fear, the nervousness, the, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this, that makes me know I'm growing. Yeah,
Right.
that's the difference between seeing fear as a stop sign and seeing fear as a, you're about to grow here, you're about to do something massive here, you've never done this before, right? And so for me, that's how I measure growth, whether it's business or personal. That's how I measure growth.
Great, great answer. Okay, bonus question time. For you, you
Mm.
need to pick a number between 1 and 18.
Um, I'm gonna pick number 7.
Wow, I had a 7 yesterday as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Signifies completeness.
I know, but it's just crazy. It was just yesterday morning. Okay,
Wow.
so my for somebody like you,
Hmm.
no, because that no, no.
That make me nervous now.
Mm, mm. Okay, if you were to start a completely different business tomorrow, what would it be and why? I'm
Oh,
just looking at the parking lot now, but go on.
yeah. So, okay, if I could start a completely
Completely
different
different
business,
business, I think is the
completely
key.
different. Hold on,
Yeah,
completely different.
yeah.
I would do a travel blogging business.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you mean? What? How would this look? This like because now I suppose we call it a travel vlog. Or
Yeah.
would it just be writing, or would it be video? What would it be?
It'll be video. It'll be
Yeah.
video. It would be lots of travel and going to places. Because I love traveling, right? Traveling, faith, family, travel. That's my order of
Uh-huh.
priority, right? And so if I was just doing this, more traveling and being able to tell people how amazing this place is, and don't come to this place because so and so, and if you're black, make sure that you know this, and these are the areas where you want to hang out, and right? I would do that. I would love to do that. That would be fun. That would be
Off the
fun.
back of that, brilliant to hear. Off the back of that, for my wife, for example, going on holiday is about food. I think she
Mm.
tries to make it about the go and see the landscapes and all this kind of stuff, but it's actually about food. For you, what is it? Is it the beach? Is it landscape? Is it the people? Is it the food? Is it all of that? Is there a main thing for you when traveling?
Two things. Um, the freedom, because I like to travel by myself as well,
Uh
right?
huh.
I like solo traveling. It's the freedom, which is for me the sense of being somewhere completely different and having no idea, like a sense of adventure. So that's something. And also, I love being immersed in different culture. Again, I don't know what it means. I don't know. I don't know the etiquette. I don't know this, and I like being surrounded and being in a place where I've got to learn something. I've got to try something new. I like to, I've got some rules around food, but I like to try different things. I like to try different cultures and see and sample them, speak to hear the language and try their foods and look at their clothing, the way they dress, the way they interact with each other, and the way they interact with me being a black woman. All of those things. That I love for me, and just waking up and thinking, where am I again? Oh yeah, I'm
Oh,
in
that's
Bali.
beautiful.
Where am I again? Oh yeah, I'm in the Maldives. Oh yeah, that's
That's
what I love.
amazing. Okay, look, JJ, the way that you got onto this podcast, I reached out to you randomly, and somebody said to me the other day, who I interviewed off the back of the post I put in the Black Business Recommendation Group. They said to me, I didn't know that it was about this, like doing the podcast, and it made me sound kind of sneaky. But yeah, it was kind of sneaky. The point is to try and draw out the people, because that group has like got 40,000 people in it, and I just find it quite amazing. So it was to draw out the people that I am dedicated to meeting, learning from. It's so inspirational to speak to somebody like you. It's an absolute honor to speak to somebody like you. The possibilities we have with technology today, all of that, but also highlighting, which something to me is common in both of us and the people we speak to, this innate dedication to helping others. So I
Yeah.
remember reading it at one point, which is I help people who help others. And that I read like 20 years ago. And it's something that always, I watched the series the other day, The Bear, and it's
Oh
about
yeah,
restaurants, right? You know it?
Phoenix.
So I watched
Yeah.
the episode the other day called Forks, and cousin had gone to go and basically thought he'd been banished, but it was really to help him find himself. And he found himself in, I mean, I never really looked at restaurants in this way at all. I love, one of my things is project management. I'm qualified in project management. And I remember one of my teachers at the time said to me, what I need you to do today is go to McDonald's, don't eat anything, don't buy anything, but sit there for 2 hours and just watch them move. And so just like you, I'm very interested in systems, right?
Yeah.
I'm the kind of dad who put a film on, pause it, say to my son, did you see that? He's like, what you just did? I said, no, in the background. Do you see that thing? That's not there for any reason. That's there for a reason. Like the guy who did this, and then, like watching films like Star Wars and they're putting this thing, and I'm like, stopping the film. That thing doesn't exist in real life, right? So somebody had to build that part for this thing that's been built inside the film.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So on the bear, I'm watching the bear, and one thing that was really in my mind was every second counts, which is a lot to do with mortality and your purpose and pushing out into the world. But he was holding this book called Unreasonable Hospitality. And so I got this book. I literally the next day I bought the book, and it's basically this whole idea of giving people more than they expected. Right.
Wow.
And I come from a customer service background. I remember doing tests for becoming a salesperson, because that's where your commissions could be sky high. I remember seeing OTE when I was a young person everywhere. It's like, come in here, we're going to give you £10, but you could make a million if you really
Yeah.
work hard. But every single test I took was like, nah, mate, you're not for sales. Go back to customer service. But it's been something that I've leaned into. It's something that becomes in my family, something I teach my kids about. You need to go and take it. But I didn't take it. No, dude, I know you didn't take it, but this is your place. Just pick it up and take it over there. I'm not saying you did it, but I need you to take responsibility for it. Back to your thing about ability. I was taught by a coach a long time ago in sales. He said to me, the responsibility is the ability to respond.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You have the
Yeah.
ability to respond. So even if you didn't cause it, by taking
Yeah.
responsibility, you are grabbing all of the power to change what happens next. And so for people whose job, because within the work I do, I don't work with people who sell things. And I love that whole, yeah, but I don't know how to do it because it's not tangible. I love that. I love the intangible. But
Yeah.
the people I work with, they have to, back to what you were saying at the top, which was, I'm very selective over the people I work with. I'm very selective over the people I work with. They have to come to me with a purpose bigger than them.
Yeah.
They
Definitely.
have to. It
Definitely.
has to. That's what I'm looking for in the discovery call. I'm trying to uncover it. I dig deep. And if they don't have it, I can't work with you. I don't care how much money you've got. I can't work with you. If you do have a purpose bigger than you, we're going to make amazing magic, because there's so much crap happening in this world. But for each of us who are endowed with this kind of way of looking at things, we can create a positive ripple, one person at a time, from our corner of the world. That's what I truly believe in. So my work, similar to yours, is to help those people who have that already or can become that, and go out into the world and just create this butterfly effect of just goodness. And there's something super amazing for me. The same thing about your success. Can it be about a client? For sure it can, where you watch somebody change from one state to another. You can turn around and say, that was me that did that. But there's something else. No, that was all you. I took a little piece of something and helped you with it, but that's all you. I'm just honored to have been the one to help you unlock that.
Yeah.
And now
That's
go
right.
fly, go do your thing, man. So
Right.
I did go into the group and try my best, and I've done it so many different ways over the years to find people like you to speak to. Why? Because I was having these calls in the years. I've been doing this for like 14, 13 years, and I was having these amazing discovery calls, and I was speaking to these amazing people who have these amazing stuff to do. Whether they bought or not wasn't important part. But what I was thinking is, wow, how amazing would it be if other people could hear this conversation?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
But because of privacy and, dude, you can't do that. That's just not done. I decided at a point, I think I need to be intentional and actually set up the situation that actually happens in discovery. Back to your point about be very selective over the people that you hire. If somebody's going to assess me in discovery, I was thinking about earlier today, how to recommend to somebody or to advise somebody about if they're looking for somebody like me. I said, be very clear about whether or not they're interested in your business or interested in you. Because if they're
Yeah.
only interested in your business, that's not enough.
Yes.
I can hear everything about trying to help you grow that business, but if they're not interested in growing you at the same time, you've not got the right person for you. So to meet another person like you, regardless of whether I did this or not, just because of that being my interest within the point of human beings evolving, right? Evolving and helping other people and really finding their purpose to make the world a better place. I will always be absolutely honored and privileged to speak to people like you who, again, even through your own adversity, everything that happens to you, you could have gone ahead and said, I'm of a scarcity. I need to make that money, find the skills, make that money and travel the world. You could have just done that. But more than that, you decided to say, hold on, I found something here. Let me help other people do this as well.
Yeah.
That, I don't even need to look at it too closely to ask why it happens, whatever, but it's super important to our world.
Yeah.
And I thank you wholeheartedly for the work that you do. Thank you so much for being on today's podcast. Really, just truly, I'm
Yeah.
just at all, and
Yeah.
there's so many questions I could ask you, so many more. But I know that's what's going to happen. And I tell you something, I told the other person, this is recorded, but I want to do is live ones. But obviously, because I think it's too much pressure to do a recorded version with somebody you've just got to know. But once I think we do a version like this, it'll be easier to do a live one, and especially around a particular topic. For example,
Yeah.
it could be anti-racism, whatever it is, and discuss that. But
I mean,
I know for sure there are going to be people who are going to want to know more about you. They may be interested in working with you, and jumping through all those hoops to get possibly close to working with you. But if somebody is interested in learning more about you, where should they go? And I have written down, because I heard it quite a few times, and I'm going to speak to my wife about it as well. Feel the Fear program. This sounds to be something that's still available to people. So where can people go? Where should they go?
Okay, so to find me and the work that I do, then you can get me on abilitybg.com, my
And
website.
just to let you know, I will be putting all of this in the show notes anyway, so
Yeah.
they'll be able to just click away.
Yes, and also my Courage with JJ is another place to find me. Now I do have, which I haven't even mentioned, I've founded a couple of memberships. So one of them is called the Confidence Queens Academy, and that's based on life coaching. So the website for that is the CQ Academy, and that's based around life coaching, and that's where you can find me with regards to my Feel the Fear program, and I also have a business mentoring membership for Black women. It's called Black Woman Thrive, and that is part of Courage with JJ. So couragewithjj.com/BW Thrive. And so these
Perfect.
are the platforms, but you can just get me on any platform, book a call with me, and I'm happy to discuss whatever it is you need. So, that it works that way.
So for us, if you could send me an email
Yeah.
with the links, I've
Yes.
got majority of them. It's just the Confidence Queens Academy I know I do not have. And
Yes.
any direct links to the different programs you talked about would be super
Yes. Yes.
useful as well. JJ,
Yes. We'll do.
thank you so much. Really, a massive, massive highlight of my day today. I've really, really enjoyed speaking with you, listening to everything you're doing, everything you're going to go on to do. I suppose another question that's going to become a staple for me from a personal point of view, because I do this because I'm interested in you, but I know other people will be. So if I wanted to find out more about, this doesn't sound weird, but please just follow me. If you want to find out more about where you're going to be, you talked about next year and speaking engagements. Do you have a mailing list where people can see where you're going to be or anything like that?
I'm on every single social media platform, and whilst for example, LinkedIn, I do my anti-racism stuff there, but Facebook is where you can catch up with me, on everything. If I'm going somewhere, I tell the people who I'm connected with on Facebook, follow me on Facebook, and my Facebook handle is JJ the Courage Catalyst.
Nice.
And that's also the same handle on all platforms. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, even with JJ the Courage Catalyst. And that's probably the most up to date place where you can get me and know where I'm going to be. I also do a
Nice.
lot of free in depth trainings on my Facebook and on my Instagram. So, for example, imposter syndrome training on Instagram, free. Training on how to set boundaries in the workplace, free. I do all of this stuff, and I have lots of workshops. Every couple of months, I do free workshops on my social media platforms. So, social media, everywhere you can find me.
Perfect. And I'm going to be looking at that and joining some workshops myself. I can tell you that much.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much again, JJ. Okay. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Attract, Sell, Nurture podcast. I will see you on the next episode. Bye bye.
Amazing. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. This podcast is for anyone who is passionate about making a difference through their work and wants to learn from others doing exactly the same. It's about the journey of creating a service business that not only generates revenue, but also contributes to the betterment of lives and the world around us. So if you are someone who has a story to tell, someone who is making waves in your field, or someone who has unique insights on the synergy between service businesses and societal transformation, I would love to hear from you. I'm always seeking amazing guests to feature on this show. So if you or someone you know fits this description, please apply via the link in the comments or the show notes of this episode.